I'd like to give some explanation about the second part of homework 1. And I probably need to start with an apology. This 8.32 you can see here is Zybooks maintained, and that means that it was written by Zybooks. I had no part in this. I say that right from the beginning. Because I believe that the instructions are not helpful, not clear. And that has resulted in many students attacking this question in a different way. It says that we're going to replace words in a sentence, and it tells us that we have an integer that tells us the number of word replacement pairs. And in this example, the first one is a 3. Then we have the words and the replacements. 3 words and then 3 replacements. Second line of input is an integer telling us how many words there are in the sentence that follows. And what we want to do is output this sentence, but replacing any of the words that need to be replaced. So for instance, automobile gets replaced with car, manufacturer gets replaced with maker, children is replaced with kids, and then again another automobile is replaced with car. So that's our assignment. But here is something that has confused some people. The list will always contain less than 20 word replacement pairs. It does not mean that the sentence is of maximum length 20. It means that these pairs here will be less than 20. It's even more confusing when you understand or when you realize that we don't need that assumption anyway, because it's telling us exactly how many replacement pairs there are, and it's telling us exactly how long the sentence is. So we can sort of forget about that last line here, which is just adding to everybody's confusion. What on earth do you do with that 20? We want to output each word followed by a space, even the last one. And it tells us to use 2 arrays, one for the original words and the other for the replacements. In other words, we use one array for automobile, manufacturer, and children in this example, and another array for car, maker, and kids. And then it tells us that we have to write this method, and that this method either returns a -1 if the word is not found in the list, or it returns the index of where it's found. It says returns the index of words first occurrence in word list. And here is word list, which is an array. And if we sort of think through that logically, what that's telling us is that the array that contains automobile, manufacturer, and children is called word list because it returns the index of this word to find in this array, the array that contains automobile, manufacturer, and children. So if in this case the second word it found automobile, then it would return a 0. If the word was the and it looked in here, it did not find it, it wasn't automobile, manufacturer, or children, and therefore it returned a -1. So that's what this method does. If it returns a -1, then we're just going to keep the word the. In this case, automobile, it returned a 0 because it was in the 0th place in the array called word list. And so we will replace it with the word that's in the 0th position in our replacement array. So at this point, I'm going to move to Sketchpad. Here is our input. So the first thing we have to do is input this 3. I called it rep. We get the input. And now I have to create 2 strings of length rep. I cannot create those strings until I know how long they are. So I needed the 3, and now I can create word list as I do here, and then similar code. I just didn't write it out for you, but similar code to create replacements, both arrays and both of length rep. And there you see your word new. So now you understand you're using a constructor to construct that array. And then we need to input our words and our replacements so that we get our 3 words into word list and the replacements into the replacement array. And we can do that with a for loop. We're going to go through this loop in the first instance 3 times because rep is 3, and we're going to collect a word from our input. So the first word would be automobile. Automobile is going to go into word list 0, and then we'll collect the next word. So car. Car is going to go into replacement 0, and then I becomes 1, and word list 1 is the next word, which is manufacturer, and then replacement 1 is maker, etc. So this is how we're picking up our words and our replacements, and so those arrays are going to look like this. So now we've set everything up and we're ready to input this 15. So this word, this number here, we are going to input, I called it num. So I've inputted the number of words in my sentence. In this case, this sentence here, the automobile manufacturer, etc. I don't really need, in fact, I don't at all need to store these words anywhere. I just need to pick up a word, see if it needs to be replaced. If it doesn't, I output it. If it does, I replace it. How many words am I looking at? I've just picked up the number there, 15. So I've got a for loop here. I'm going to go through this for loop at most 15 times. And and I'm going to input a string. So I know how to input a string. Scanner.next gives me a string. So the first one is the word the. So S will be a value the. And then I'm going to call my method. It's going to look in word list here for S, and rep is the length of word list. So it's going to look through word list through its whole length, looking for this word the. If it doesn't find it, which it won't with a the, if it doesn't find it, it will return a -1. So if W is -1, the word isn't in the list, so I don't replace it, I just output it, and I have to output it plus a space. If I did find it, if this method did find it, it's going to return the index of where it was found. And in that case, I have to output my replacement word plus a space. The instructions tell us to put a space even at the end of the sentence, so that's fine. The word plus a space. Or S plus a space. Let's go around, and K is now 1. And I input a string, and that string is automobile because that is the next word in my sentence. So S is now automobile. Find word in word list with this S will return that the place in word list where automobile is found, and in this case it is a 0, which is not -1. And therefore I'll be on the else, and I have to print replacement 0. Replacement 0 is the word car plus a space. And we'll keep on going round and around this loop until we process the entire sentence. So everything should work well as long as this method works well. So let's look at the method. So here is the algorithm. I wrote the algorithm for you here. We have to look in this word list array for this word to find. And the array, this word list array, is of length num_in_list. That's what num_in_list is for. And if it's found, it returns the index, and if not, -1. And the easiest way to do this is, you have a for loop. Arrays and for loops go together very well. So you have a for loop. It starts at 0, goes up to, but not including the length of the array. And again, this is something you don't need in Java, because you could just say word list.length, but it told you to put in this other parameter, so we put it in. If the word you're looking for, word to find, is the same as word list I is going to be your loop counter. It starts at 0, goes up to the end. So if this word to find is equal to that place, that word in this word list, then return I. And that will immediately get you out of this for loop. You don't have to keep on processing the loop. Just return I. And that returns control to main. But if you are if your code reaches after the end of the loop, it means that it was not found. It did not find it because it did not return. It was not found. And therefore we need to return -1. And that would be how you do this. So hopefully I've given you everything here to put this all together. It is a good review of methods. It's also a review of arrays. I have lots of students who contacted me and said they're kind of shaky on arrays and shaky on methods. Trust me, we will have a lot of practice in this course and even more practice in 311, the next course. So you will get the practice, you will be fine. I totally understand being shaky on these things. If I think back to when I first learned arrays, I can remember thinking that these were very curious creatures and I didn't understand how they worked. So I remember that feeling well. It will pass. You will get better with practice. So hopefully I've helped you now with homework.